on Retropie on how to do a control setup and other options. This is my Nintendo emulator, and we're going to load up Ninja Turtles 2. Wait for the game to load up. As you see, if I hit select player 2 on my joystick, load up 2 players. Now I can move my joystick around for player 1 and pick a player. But player 2, my joystick isn't moving. So what that means is that my joystick for player 2 is not being recognized. So what I need to do is on my keyboard here, if you have hotkeys binded, you can hit Shift and X or Select and X. But I took the hotkeys off the keyboard because I didn't want the kids accidentally hitting 2 buttons at once and making it either shut off or making it either shut off or them going into menus or erasing something. So I got my hotkeys binded to my control board here, or my keyboard, and if I hit my shift is my hotkey button, my right shift, and if I hold down right shift and press X, it goes into a menu setup. Now in here in the menu setup, I use my keyboard. I can go through and go under settings. And you have different settings here. You have your drivers, you have your video settings, which would change the aspect ratio, same thing with the volume on the audio. You have like core, that there does enables hardware shared context. I don't want to do that. Configurations. Save configuration on exit screen. We want that selected to yes, so on. So that way when we exit out, it should automatically save, but you still have to save the core configurations. Now if you go up to input, this here, max users, I like to set it to 4. I don't like it on 5 because it makes it where you have to go through more users when you're scrolling down. Menu toggle gamepad combo. That is if you want to make it where you can use the joysticks to toggle the menu. I'd rather just use the keyboard so the kids don't mess with it. Menu swap OK and cancel button. That flips your OK and cancel button, so I don't want that done. All users control menu on. Remap binds enabled. Okay, we go here to input hotkey binds. If we go into it, this is all your hotkeys. These are your special commands. If you hit shift, R shift and space, it'll fast forward. If I hit R shift and 1, it'll hold the fast forward. Same thing with load states and save states. To quit RetroArch, I got to hit R shift and enter on my keyboard. You can set it to where you can hit start and select, but I don't want mine set like that. Same thing with reset game. Here's your enable hotkeys button. I got mine set to R shift, but you can usually set it to select. Same thing with menu toggle. You set it to X. I got it set to X on my keyboard. Let's back out of here. Now you can go through here and change. If you can't do it the other way I'm going to show you, you can go through here and manually change. It's almost the exact same, and manually change the button layouts and save them from in here. But I prefer to do it a different way. Let me back out again and again. And if I go up to quick menu, this is the easier way to do it. Now this is if you have already saved your configurations through RetroArch on your buttons and it's not playing. See, as mine's already configured, the buttons are working, but for some reason my right stick isn't being shown, or my second player stick isn't being shown. So I'm going to go to the first one, and then we're going to go down to controls. You also have your options here and your cheats if you want to use cheats. It's kind of like a Game Genie hack thing. Options, look at options real quick, and it just changes the turbo and everything else. for this game. Different games do different things and options. But the controls, if you go through here and the emulator you're using doesn't have controls, you have to go back to inputs and input your controls. But this one uses controls. So I'm going to click A on my keyboard to enter. And we look here, user device type 1, Retropad with left analog. User analog to digital, left analog. Now if I look at user 2 device type, it just says Retropad. It doesn't show the analog, it doesn't show the type as analog or digital type. So we want to go down to device 2 type, and we want to select Retropad with analog. Then we want to go to analog digital type, and we want to hit left analog. You can also go through here and change your buttons, mappings, if you want to change your button mappings for all your players. Now, being that we've already done it, we have the Retropad with analog on now and left analog. We want to go to save core remap files. If you save game remap files, it just does it for the one specific game that you're playing. Say if you want a different button combination for Mortal Kombat that you don't want for something else, you would save your game remap file, not your core remap. If you save the core remap file, what it does is overwrites the entire emulator's control scheme. So we're going to save game remap file, or save core remap file, and it'll do all my Nintendo games the exact same way. So when I hit A, if you look down here in the corner, it's going to say remap file saved successfully. So now I'm going to back out. I'm going to hit B, and for little added bonus, I'm going to go down here again and says save core overrides. Now this will save all the core overrides that I change. And you want to make sure you do this, because if I had to exit out right now, it would work. But most likely, if I exit the game in the emulator and go back, it won't work unless I hit it again. So we're going to hit Save Core Emulator, Save Core Overrides. Remember, core for your emulator, game for just the ROM. So we want to click A. Override saved successfully. So now, if I go up, and I click resume, now my joystick works. This is my second player joystick. This is my one player joystick. Now they're both working. Now to exit out of the game, you can usually, if you have your hotkeys bonded to your select and your start as exit, I got mine I hit them, they don't do nothing. And the reason I do that is because on Super Mario World, one of the main reasons, if you want to exit out of a level you already beat, you got to hit select and start at the same time. So some games have certain combinations that will access your hotkeys, which you don't want. So I got all my hotkeys accessed through my keyboard. So if I hit enter and right shift at the same time, the game exits out. Okay. Now say if I pick a different game. Let's go 1942. We enter the game. Showing not supported. Okay, so let me enter it again. Okay, now I can go and I can select what emulator I want to run for the ROM. Now if I were to select one, the first one, that selects default emulator for the emulator. If I select the second one, it selects the emulator for that specific ROM. See, this is all set up for main for all. So I'm going to go down to the second one. We're going to enter. and it's set up for main for all. Let's try, say, Final Burn Alpha 2012 and see if that works. Now we're going to go to launch, and we'll see if it launches under Final Burn Alpha. See, it launches perfectly now. It didn't say input not found. Now if you look at the screen, 1942 is a vertical shooter. The screen's stretched out. It shouldn't be stretched out. It should be like this arcade cabinet over here. This is a vertical cabinet compared to the other one that's a horizontal cabinet. 1942 is a vertical shooter, so you want your screen up and down. Now I'm going to show you how to change that. There's two ways to change it. You can change it through the menu setting we just used. I could exit out, and I could go back into 1942, and it should load up because it should be saved to that emulator. If I look at it still, it's still under LR Final Burn Alpha 2012. So that's the emulator that this ROM is running on. Now I can go down to video mode for this ROM, and I can change the different video modes. Now you got to watch out because you got different hertzes, and the game runs at 25 hertz or 27 hertz. If you pick 74 hertz or 148 megahertz, your screen will act up and you'll get fuzz going through your screen. And people see the fuzz going through their screen, they're wondering what they're doing wrong. It's because they're running at the wrong hertz and their TVs can't handle it. But I don't like doing it through this side because when you do it through here, you got to know what you're looking at. You want 4:3 or 16:9. That's the only things I can change to, really. They got a 16:10, but I don't want that. So 4:3 is going to make it a little bit shorter, but not shorter as we want. So we'll exit out of this. We'll just launch the game as normal. The game loads up. Now if I hit Shift and X again, it'll take me back to this menu. Now I go to Settings, and we'll go to Video Driver. Okay, now we're going to go down here to Aspect Ratio. And if you're doing it through this, you can actually see the aspect ratio changing so you know you're getting the correct one. And we're going to hit sideways. We've got 16.5, 1:1, 2:1, 3:2, and so forth. I want 9:16. It looks all right, but it's still shrunk up too much. So I like to pick Config. Config and core provided are basically the exact same thing. 4.3 is like playing on an old style TV, the square box TVs, not. And then you got 16.9, which is widescreen. So we want it on either core provided or config. So okay, so we're going to leave it there. We're going to back out by hitting B on the keyboard. We're going to back out again. Okay, I'm going to go up to quick menu. Now I'm going to go to save game overrides, not save core overrides, because we just want it for this specific game, being that it's a vertical game. We don't want all our games in vertical, so we're just going to go save game overrides. And click A. And it'll say game saved successfully. Now, when I go back and hit resume, the game should be in the right position. Now it's more of a vertical shooter. It's in a vertical position instead of horizontal. Now if I exit out of the game and go back in, it should load back up in a vertical position, being that I saved it. Well, that's just a little tutorial. I hope it helps anybody that needs help. I've looked at videos online and I found multiple things, and if you're not careful when you're going through your inputs, you can really mess up your system. So you want to have a backup save file of your SD card, a backup image, so that way if you mess up, that you can reload your image. But it took me a while to figure out all the ins and outs of working the control panels and changing buttons and everything. I'm still mapping some of the games because I got so many on here. I'll show you how to scrape artwork real quick. you can go to Scraper, and you can scrape specific artwork. But if you just want to do one, say 1942, I want to find the artwork for it. I'll go to Edit Games, Metadata. I'm going to go down. You go to the very bottom, you have Scrape. We're going to click Scrape. And it's going to look through the internet. You have to be connected to the internet to do this. It's going to look through the internet and pull up any files that show for that game. It may take a while. I'm not even sure if I'm hooked up to the internet right now. My internet shows that it's running. It's looking. Okay, there we go. 1942. And it shows that game image right there. And it gives you a little bit of display. It talks about the game. Two-player shooter developed by Capcom, published by Capcom. The year it came out and somebody's rating for it. So if we want that, we're going to click OK. And then we're going to click Save. And it should save this game's metadata and scrape the image for me. Right there. And then you got the little details right there. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching. Have a great day.